Hi, I'm Simon. Thanks for tuning in to The Ordinary Filmmaker. If you're new here, subscribe to get notification of new videos like this one so you don't miss out on any news, rumors, or camera gear reviews. And all the links to everything I talk about in this video, including the contest giveaway for the R5, can be found in the description down below along with my affiliate links. We just had a major rainstorm last night and now all of a sudden the sun's coming out, so I thought I'd get out here and shoot this morning's video. This is just an update. It's a rumor update. It's a news update. The first thing I want to start off with is a bit of a correction to the video that I put out earlier this morning. Stephen pointed out to me that Canon had kind of indicated that, well, the record limits will be gone. So let's get into that story right away. Back on July the 10th, Pro AV was interviewing Canon's technical rep, Media Metal, and she said, well, let me read you the quote. Once that's being lifted, referring to the record limit, it shouldn't be an issue to record 4K 30 as long as you have a card long enough and a camera is powered from the mains. Now, mains is British speak for being powered from a receptacle or from your, power in the house or your studio. That's really positive. Now, the one thing, I wouldn't get too excited because she says, well, we've been told and it's coming. These are wiggle words that could mean, yes, it's definitely going to happen anytime between now and 50 years from now. So I'm not 100% confident we're going to see it in the next firmware or the firmware after that, but the best way to ensure that this happens is to continue to put pressure on Canon, send them emails, call them up, talk to them, publish videos. Let's just keep this conversation going. Within about, 6 months, we were able to get Canon, or I think it was less than 6 months by the time they mentioned it, but they said, yeah, we're going to give you back 24 frames per second last year. So that's really huge. They're listening, so let's keep the pressure back on them. What is with me? I cannot speak this morning. I had a good night's sleep, but my words, anyhow, so I'm just going to keep rolling with it. It's Sunday morning. I'm not going to spend 8 hours today recording like I did yesterday. I've solved my exposure issue, so I'm really happy about that. Okay, so the next topic I want to get into is all about rumored cinema line cameras. So this is coming from Canon Rumors, and essentially what this is going to talk to is a new line of cinema EOS R cameras. At least that's what they're supposed to be calling them. These are going to be RF mount cameras. So let's get into it. Let's take a look now. Again, these are rumors, but they are rated as CR2, so they are coming from a known source. Gregg put out a story a couple of days before saying that an RF camera is coming. I think a lot of the discussion was believing it was going to be like a C100 Mark III, but I do have more information for you, so let's get into the 4 cameras that are being discussed at Canon Rumors. The first rumored camera is the R200. It's going to have a super 35mm 4K sensor, the same one that's found in the EOS C200. It's not going to have IBIS, and it's not going to have RAW. It's going to have an RF mount, as I already mentioned. It's going to have 10 stops of internal ND filters. It's going to have C-Log 2 and 3. And it's going to be an 8-bit recorder at 420. It's going to use SD card slots, and it's going to be capable of up to 4K 60 and 1080 at 120. It's going to have dual battery slots, and it's going to be priced around, are you ready for this? US dollars, $34.99. The R300 has the Super 35 4K DGO sensor, the same one that's found in the C300 Mark III, which is a beautiful camera. It also doesn't have IBIS and RAW, but when you look at the price tag of $62.99, that doesn't seem all that bad. It is an RF mount camera. It also has 10 stops of internal ND filters, C-Log 2 and 3, but this camera is 10-bit 422, but it also records onto SD cards. Obviously, these are UHS 2 cards, but look at this, 4K 120 and 2K 180. 4K 120, that's pretty impressive to be able to fit onto a UHS 2 card. I'm curious to know what type of compression and all the other details behind this. It's going to be using BPA batteries and not the LP6 batteries. So interesting, huh? No CF Express card. It's going to use UHS 2. It's going to be able to record up to 4K 120. I'm really curious about that. Now, I've kind of soured to UHS 2, SD cards that are UHS 2 or even UHS 1. And here's a simple reason. If you're going to record 4K, and let's say you're going to record up to half an hour, let's say an hour, it's a nice round number. I did a video yesterday, and it was 50 minutes. Because I had CF Express, I was able to move that those video files off onto the computer pretty quickly. It was amazing how quick it is. You know, a couple of minutes max. I don't remember the exact time, but it was just a couple of minutes. If I had it recorded to a UHS-2 card, it would have been a lot longer than that. A lot longer. Yes, these are priced much better, but if you're doing professional work, the one thing you got to ask yourself is, if you're going to be moving a lot of files, using these cameras a lot, all that time you're going to lose to transferring, is that going to hit you? Is that going to make up for the money you're saving from going to a C300 Mark III, for example, or a C200 or a C100? I would pay very careful consideration to that, because in my view, if it was me, I'd want CF Express cards. I know, just, a couple of months ago I said, I don't like CF Express cards, they're expensive, I'd rather have UHS-2, they're just as good for the ordinary filmmaker, and for the ordinary filmmaker they are, but we're talking about cinema cameras here. And anything you're doing for professional work, the CF Express card, the speeds are huge. You're looking at 1700 megabytes max read, sustained writes of 1400 megabytes, whereas these UHS-2 cards, they don't quite come as high as that. All right, let's get on to the remaining two cameras. Here we go. The XF505, it's going to be a replacement for the XF205. It's going to have the same 1-inch sensor as the XF705. It's going to have 12G SDI output and SD cards, an integrated zoom lens with a 15x zoom, which is really nice, and it's also going to have BPA batteries. The XC20 is going to be a replacement for the XC10 and 15, or the XC15. Same 1-inch sensor again as the XF705, but it's going to have a CF Express slot for internal RAW recording. It still will have SD cards for XF AVC MP4 recording, and an integrated lens with a 10x zoom and a constant 2.8 aperture. It will use the LP-E6 NH batteries. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I initially thought that CF Express cards were expensive, and they still are, but they were something that we just didn't need as an ordinary filmmaker, and that UHS-2 cards were more than capable enough of doing 4K, and they are. But what I didn't really consider at the time is how much time it takes to move those files off of the storage in your camera to your computer. And it's huge. You can be looking at a difference of hours over the course of a day when you're moving hours of content off of your camera onto your computer. And if you're doing it for a business, then you really want to consider whether, you want to invest in CF Express cards, because when you look at the price of a card, compared to how much time you lose, I prefer the CF Express card slots. But yesterday when I was filming, and I shot for, so 2 bits of information on the storage and the battery, I shot for about 2 hours on a single fully charged LP-E6 NH battery. So that's really good news. So despite being a mirrorless camera, I'm getting way more record time on this camera than I did on my 70D, so I'm pretty happy with the battery life. But what I'm not happy with is, I actually filled up my CF Express card and started recording onto the SD card. Now, the card that I'm using is a pro-grade 325 gigabytes, but formatted, it's only 300 gigs of usable space. That's a bit of a disappointment. So why is it? Do we lose that in formatting? No, we don't lose much at all in formatting. It's a difference between how memory is accounted for, how it's being reported. It's the same amount of information. It's kind of like the metric in the imperial system. Right now, it's 69 degrees, so it's 69. And in Celsius, it's about 18. So Celsius is much colder, right? No, it's the same temperature, it's just using a different scale. This goes back to about 20 or 30 years ago, probably even a bit before that, when hard drives started coming out, and these storage manufacturers decided, well, let's report it differently than memory, because memory uses a binary system. So for example, 1 megabyte in 1987, once you installed it in your computer, you actually got 1,024 kilobytes. Not 1,000 kilobytes. Well, it was very expensive to produce hard drives, so manufacturers thought, well, let's make it seem bigger than it is. So they used base 10 math. So for example, 1 megabyte equaled 1,000 kilobytes. And as you increase from kilobytes to megabytes to gigabytes to terabytes to petabytes, it makes a huge difference. So that's why I lost 25 gigabytes. It's not that I really lost it, it's that it's being reported differently. And even though CF Express cards are essentially memory, it's non-volatile memory, they're borrowing from the way hard drive manufacturers report on it, probably because it's the hard drive manufacturers that have bought these companies and started producing it. So it's a little bit frustrating. So just keep that in mind, that when you're buying SD cards or you're buying hard drives and you format them, you lose that space. It's just because of the difference in how they're being reported. Thanks so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. Don't forget to subscribe for your chance to win the Canon EOS R5. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.